Hey, John Larson here, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of the JL Steering Wander and Deathwobble series. We got lucky today too because my cousin popped in from Idaho and brought his 2015 JK, and we got to diagnose his steering wander. That one was super easy, super quick, and it was 2 bad tie rod ends both on the drag link, and then a 3rd bad tie rod end on his tie rod going into the steering knuckle on the driver's side. Larson here, and today we're doing part 2 of the JL Steering Wander and Deathwobble. The stuff we're going to talk about really applies to any straight axled rig with coils up front. The same principles also apply to leaf springs. It's just that you more than likely won't have a track bar, but you'll still be wanting to check out your ball joints, your tie rod, your drag link, and your steering box area, and your pitman arm, and also check the jam nuts on your steering. First, we're just going to show you what a drag link, a tie rod, and a track bar are. 9 times out of the 10, the Deathwobble that I've seen in my life is almost always track bar related. So I think you're mostly going to want to look at that first, and then you're going to move to tie rod ends. Then you're going to move to control arm bushings, which it also could be, and then also ball joints as well, tire balance, and tire cupping where they just can't balance might not cause Deathwobble, but it'll definitely cause some vibrations in the wheel that you probably won't be able to get away with either. And so first we're just gonna kind of walk you through, turn the wheel back and forth, and then looking at the tie rod ends, looking at the track bar on the rig, just to look for play and what slop looks like. I did get lucky in some ways, not lucky for my cousin. He stopped by today from Idaho and was telling me that his JK, 2015 JK, was wandering all over the road.
It's just kind of like a dead spot. It's like if you hit the wind or like on windy roads, you're just like white knuckle. It feels like you're all over the place.
Yeah, we were just diagnosing his 2015 JK. Yeah, go ahead. No, right in the middle of the throw. Go right there and go really fast. Feel a clunk in your pitman arm. Like a big clunk in your pitman arm. Actually, don't feel any clunk in your track bar. Keep going. Right there. I mean, I don't see any play in the track bar bushing so far. Keep going. Good, that worked out. Yeah. Your drag link, tie rod end at your knuckles bad. Your ball joints and your knuckles look okay from the static test. Keep going. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I found it. I'm gonna probably show you a couple things that I found on my rig over the years. I've had all kinds of issues with my Jeep as well. They intentionally drilled the holes. These are factory, these aren't welded out. They still got paint on them. Every Jeep I've ever had, I keep the track bar bolts 100% tight. It moves so much. I feel like the axle side, it's really hard to see, I guess. But there's like, yeah, I thought it was track bar joint. Coming off the last trip, torqued it the best I could with all my crescents. Got to like Eldorado Hills from Highway 108, and thought it was track bar joints. It was actually, this jam nut was totally loose. It's all the way tight and it still rotates side to side, but there's definitely some play in it even when it's fully tight. And I definitely get some movement in there. I could see just a little. It's hardly any, but I'm not 100% certain this is the Deathwobble cause, but just the tiniest amount of play in a track bar will cause Deathwobble, so I think it's it. That drag link tie rod end at the pitman arm is totally blown out. I don't know, we have a couple thousand miles. I noticed coming back from LA, it's a burden because I can tell when it's a tie rod end or a ball joint, like instantly. I'm like, that's a bad tie rod end. The way it's wandering, the dead spot wasn't as bad as ball joints. Like ball joints would have been much more wandering. If you catch the dead spot in a turn, it'll hold. But it's definitely, you could feel the clunk in the
in the drag link when you hold it?
It's actually surprising to me that dealers can't figure this out, because it's pretty easy. I know they throw a lot of stabilizers at the JLs, and I've never once had to diagnose a bad stabilizer as the cause of death wobble, and it's also not going to fix it either. It might temporarily mask it. Left out is alignment specs are pretty important with these as well. With any straight axle rig, you want to be, I would say, between 5.5 and 7 to 8 degrees of caster. I personally, on a coil sprung rig, where you're trying to balance pinion angle out, I would go for 6.5 to 7 degrees. And the more lift you go, the less caster you're probably going to be able to get. Otherwise, your pinion's going to almost be flattered down. Your drive shaft angle is going to be terrible. And so with a 2.5-inch lift on my JL, I've actually shot for 7 degrees of caster as like my all-around goal, which I think is a really good number to start with. And then you can kind of go from there. This JL, we have 2.5-inch Metalcloak coils, and I can still run 7 degrees of caster. I always shoot for an 1/8 inch of toe in. If a dealer or a company or an off-road shop is telling you need to toe out, you need to go somewhere else, because they're definitely wrong. So toe out is like an old Jeepers trick to limp your rig home from the trail. When you've had like maybe failed track bar joint or some bad tie rod ends that have like ripped apart on the trail, and you're just trying to limp your rig home and it's wandering, maybe getting death wobble, or your tires are way out of balance, you threw some weights. That'll actually temporarily help alleviate death wobble, but sure as hell is not a fix for it. I'm running an 1/8 inch toe in. I've played with 1/8 inch toe out, and it was all over the road. That was horrible. Now it drives really straight for the moment, but there are a lot of problems that we've had with this Jeep, where I've had to replace a whole lot of parts. So I think going into the list of parts I replaced.
So in the beginning, we first bought the Jeep. It actually drove so bad, I took it right back to the dealer. Told him it felt like it had 0 degrees of caster combined with bad tie rod ends. They assured me that it was all fine and that it had 5.5 degrees of caster. I immediately ordered a Synergy track bar, Metalcloak lower control arms, and told them that there was going to be a steering box recall more than likely, which there was. About 8 months later, the TSB came out, and then a couple thousand miles later, we got our first death wobble from a Synergy track bar double adjuster going out. 18,000 miles was the next big hurdle. I installed a Rubicon Express 1.5-inch lift after the stock drag link tie rod ends failed, and that was in order to run aftermarket steering, which we ran the Synergy steering. The drag link failed at 22,000 miles with both tie rod ends failing. 21,000 miles in between there, we had to do new tires. The stock tires cupped really bad, new shocks, and a new stabilizer. We had a couple spurts of death wobble here and there, chasing it around, end up doing rock jock, upper control arm, bushings in the axle. Those were toast and ripping apart. 28,000 miles again, horrible steering wandering again. Ended up doing another steering box and pitman arm. The dealer was fighting me on warranty stuff. We installed a Metalcloak track bar, tie rod, and drag link, and also replaced the Rubicon Express coils with Metalcloak coils and shock extensions. In between all that, we did run a RockKrawler track bar that we'd kind of squeezed in there. Now, more recently at 30,000 miles, I did find a track bar with FK Heims and rod ends over at WFO. So I ordered that immediately and replaced the Metalcloak track bar. I just prefer rod ends, and I prefer FK JMX Heims. And then also installed the Metalcloak control arm drop brackets front and rear, and that actually helped with the ride quality. And, that's where I'm at now, 32,000 miles.
One of the big problems is you can't really get to the jam nuts on here. I think you're almost better off putting it in a vise and tightening it in a vise and then putting it on the rig. Or just, honestly, I'm at the point where I would happily buy a non-adjustable track bar, or just weld the jam nut up solid, or tack weld it at least, or use red Loctite or something. I was looking for, if someone was cool enough to make a track bar with FK rod ends. I'm Googling it, and like WFO pops up, and they're local to me. I like instantly ordered that track bar, even though I just bought the Metalcloak. And that to me was like an amazing difference. Having like solid rod ends and not bushings. I mean, I think I'm just used to having rod ends on Jeeps because I've been running Heims on everything for so long. To me, the steering feel instantly improved. At that point, I realized that the track bar mount at the axle was horribly walled out. And then after like 25,000 miles, 28,000 miles, it had completely walled out to a point where I had to stop everything I was doing that night and like instantaneously cut out some scrap 1/4-inch plate, drill it out to 9/16 and weld it over that. And I want to say that when I mic'd it out, the hole was over 11/16.
on the tire. I don't see anything.
All right, and thanks for watching the second version of the Deathwobble series. So today we covered what parts are what, how to check them for play or wear, and then also talked a little bit about alignment specs as well. If you're going to post up on a forum or a Facebook group, make sure you have like an alignment printout, or if you don't, make sure you know how to measure a caster and tow yourself. Post up where you're at. From there, I think we covered a lot of history of what I've had to deal with this JL, which has been a lot, way more than I expected. We actually bought this because I was sick of dealing with Deathwobble in both of our WJs that used to constantly blow through track bar bushings. And on those WJs, we were running, I want to say the Kevin's Off-Road super hard durometer bushings on the JKS track bars. And that was all I ever had to deal with, other than maybe some frame plating, some tie rod ends, some unit bearings, ball joints. I would say once you do it once on those rigs, you're mostly done. Whereas this thing, we've been replacing parts over and over and over again. We're at 32,000 miles now. I think we're going to be good for a while. I kind of want to make it to like 42,000 miles before I have to replace anything again. That's about a year's worth of driving for me in this thing. So anyways, if I missed anything, please comment below and tell me what I missed. Otherwise, go wheel, and I'll see you guys out in the trails.